Good evening. Welcome back to my no-name channel, and I'm Bruce, and this is about another Bali COVID-19 update, and this is March 21st, 2021. And well, everybody's talking about when Bali is going to open because of some comments by the President and the Minister of Tourism. And so let's get started talking about numbers first. Okay, so let's look at the numbers. They're pretty good. Yesterday we had 130 new positives. That gives us 37,947 total, 35,408 recoveries, 1,064 deaths, and 1,475 active cases. So that's good. We're still way down below where we were before. And out of the 130 new positives yesterday, 127 were local transmissions and 3 were domestic travelers. And numbers by Regency: Badung 38, Tabanan 18, Denpasar 17, Gianyar 15, Bangli 13, Buleleng 10, Jembrana 9, Gianyar 8, and Karangasem 1. So, okay, so the numbers are looking better. We're still down way below where we were not that long ago. So good news, and it's looking up. Things are looking up. And it's really noisy today. Okay, and so you can take a look here at the chart, and you'll see, yeah, just like last week, not bad, going down. And so let's move on from the numbers and take a look at vaccinations, because everything is depending on vaccinations at this point. And so what do we have? First up, mass vaccination campaign launched in Bali. So we have these proposed green zones, and depending on the source, they seem to vary, but most sources say Nusa Dua, Ubud, and Sanur. This first story that I'm doing, they said Ubud, Nusa Dua, and Gianyar. Gianyar is where Ubud is, so I think it was just a misprint. Okay, so, but other tourist spots, like in Buleleng, they want to become a green zone too. So, yeah, more on that later. What about the mass vaccinations? So President Jokowi said, we hope that these green zones can be fully open to tourists so they will feel comfortable about staying in Bali. And the Balinese governor said the aim is to vaccinate 150,000 people working in the tourism sector in the first phase of this new inoculation program. According to this article, no date was set by the government for when Bali could be open, but the governor said the reopening could be as early as August. Okay, so let's keep track of all these different times. So we've got August here. Okay, and at the time of this article, Indonesia had vaccinated 4.1 million people of a planned 185 million. Numbers, I'm always suspicious of numbers when they come up here unless they're official. This is a news source, not the government source. So if it's only 4.1 million, that's not much. Because there's 185 million that are supposed to be vaccinated within the first 15 months in order to get what everybody is calling herd immunity. Okay, so next, the Denpasar mayor said that expats living in green zones may be eligible for vaccines. So with the big push to vaccinate everybody in Bali as soon as possible, Denpasar's mayor Igusti Nurajaya Nagara said expats living in designated areas may be eligible for vaccinations. And the green zones in this article are the green zones that are usually considered officially designated, Sanur, Ubud, and Nusa Dua. And the mayor said, quote, "We are coordinating this matter because the vaccine is free from the national budget. If we can administer it for foreign nationals, this is something that requires coordination." And he said the vaccinations in the green zone will use AstraZeneca. And AstraZeneca, if you've been following all of this, AstraZeneca, almost everywhere in the world, they stopped AstraZeneca after some reports of blood clots, and the EU and other agencies now have said it's okay, and they've started using AstraZeneca again. And so he says this is going to be, AstraZeneca is going to be used in the green zones. Indonesia had 1.1 million doses of AstraZeneca, or they have 1.1 million doses. And so far they've been using CoronaVac, the vaccine from China. Okay, now, as if you saw last week's video here, I was talking about some expats, some foreigners that live here that have KETOPs, permanent residency visas, have already been vaccinated. People with KETOSs, some have and some haven't. And so this is an ongoing thing. People are kind of doing this individually for the most part, from what I understand from social media, which is, well, you never know about social media. Foreigners, looks like eventually we're going to get vaccinated, but we're not on an official list as far as I know. Denpasar may be the first place, so we'll see what happens there. And next, more on vaccinations. The tourism minister intends to vaccinate 2 million Bali residents. So Tourism and Creative Economy Minister Sandiaga Uno said this past week that he's planning on having 2 million Bali residents vaccinated by July this year in order to reignite tourism in the island of the gods. At least he called it the island of the gods and not the island of yoga. He said Bali is on the priority list for vaccinations, and the vaccines are available, but it's necessary to get more vaccinators. In order to do this, the government's communicating with Udayana University, the military, and the police. In addition to the free government vaccines, UNO is trying to initiate vaccinations from the private sector, which is meant to vaccinate employees of private industry. And he said this will start a new hope and spread the word that Bali is back, and Bali is an icon of tourism. Now, reports in the last couple of days are short of vaccines. Short of the vaccines. Some places people have gone in to get vaccinated and they've been told, no, we're going to do the second dose first. And so, do we have enough vaccine at this point in Bali? If we don't, I'm pretty sure we're going to get it quick. There's been this huge push this week to get Bali open by this summer. This American summer, North American summer, by June, July, August. Now you remember last week I was talking about the health minister said April 2022. After he said that, and after President Jokowi came to Ubud along with the tourism minister and everybody got together, the timeline seemed to change. And okay, so on the vaccine, another vaccine. If you've been following, you know AstraZeneca as, and I just said this, I'm filming this for 2 days, I kind of forgotten some of the things I said yesterday. AstraZeneca, right, was the problem with the blood clots, and it's okayed. The Bali Health Office affirms that AstraZeneca vaccine is safe and it's going to be used, and the Ministry of Health has said the same. And they will be distributing AstraZeneca to Bali, I guess weekly, on a weekly basis. We're supposed to get 200,000 doses today, and those are going to the 3 green zones, Nusa Dua, Ubud, and Sanur. What about Buleleng? I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, so that's good news, I guess, if people aren't worried about AstraZeneca. I'm not. Some people, I think, would prefer that to CoronaVac, but we'll see. Vaccinations, right? So how many people have been vaccinated? So we've got the, you're going to hear in just a minute about what the President said and the Governor said and everybody has said, the Minister of Tourism, about the vaccinations. Well, what about the vaccinations? So here's comes from the Deputy Governor, and he says only 127,000 have been vaccinated. So 127,000, a population of 4.32 million. The idea is to get, I guess, 70%, right, for the herd immunity, the magic 70%. So what's 70% of 4.32 million? So right, around 3 million. We've got 127,000. And they're talking about, well, they're going to go over that, talking about June, July, August. Are we going to be able to vaccinate another 180, another million, 800,000, 900,000 people by then? I don't know. Well, let's see what the Deputy Governor said. He said the population is enthusiastic about receiving the vaccine, and there are enough vaccination officers, but we don't have enough vaccine. And so, he said, we're waiting for the arrival of vaccine from the center. So that's Jakarta, right? He was talking to financial and banking industry people, and he noted that 300 had received second doses out of this target group of banking and financial people, and 500 had received a first dose. And so with all the enthusiasm, the Bali provincial government is seeking additional vaccines from the center so that herd immunity can be reached as soon as possible. And so 200,000 doses of AstraZeneca are supposed to arrive today, and then we're supposed to get another 140,000, I guess, next week. And so, as I mentioned, foreigners are included in this if they're in the, well, in Sanur anyway, if they're in the green zone, they're going to get vaccinated. They're going to vaccinate everybody. The green zone still, I don't know. Well, let's talk about the vaccinations in Buleleng. You'll see what I mean or what I'm trying to get at. 500 people, max vaccination in Buleleng. This happened when the President was in Ubud, and so not to be left out, the authorities in Buleleng held a mass vaccination of 500 people last Tuesday, and President Jokowi was monitoring it virtually. Vaccinations were for community and religious leaders, the tourism leaders, the elderly. And the Deputy Bupati said, our hope is to immediately create communal immunity in Bali and Buleleng in particular, in line with the direction of the central government. And when he was asked about why the South was being prioritized for green zones, he said Buleleng would follow what's happening in the South by accelerating the vaccination process so that up to 70% of the population is vaccinated. And he said, I quote, if 70% has been achieved, Buleleng will declare itself a COVID-19 free area. This is also one of the directions from the central government so that all areas in Bali can be free from COVID-19. So he's taking the initiative. I guess we're taking the initiative up here in Buleleng to declare ourselves COVID-19 free once the vaccinations are done. I have no idea how many vaccinations have been done here yet. I saw a mass of people yesterday when I was out walking with Zoe and Masha the bear out in front of Puskas Mas on Jalan Ayani. It looked like people were lining up for vaccinations, but I asked somebody and they just said, I don't know. Well, I wasn't across the street. I wasn't about to cross the street. Traffic was awful in front of there. Anyway, the deputy governor noted that Buleleng has, a deputy Bupati, that Buleleng has very promising tourist spots like Tejukula and Gorogak. Doesn't mention Lavina, or Arsani, or some of our other areas. Pemutaran. Well, maybe Gorogak is Pemutaran. Includes Pemutaran. Probably. Okay, so Buleleng doesn't want to be left out of this. Okay, so that's the vaccine. So now we know what's happening with the vaccine. Let's see what the president had to say. Last week we had the health minister said April 2022, and then Bali Travel Association said, what? Hey, this is a crisis here. We cannot wait another year. Well, when President Jokowi was here, a couple of things hit the news which were interesting. And so the first story that came out was Jokowi's visit raises hopes. So President Jokowi was in Bali this past week, and he made headlines and raised hopes to a fever level when he said that Indonesian borders will be open for tourism when COVID-19 transmission is reduced. And he hoped that every person in Bali is complying with the prevention protocols to make that happen. Well, whether they are or not is up for question. Some people aren't, and I've talked about this before. Foreigners in particular have been a target for violating the health protocols, but also locals as well. And so President Jokowi said that the vaccination program can bring about herd immunity, and COVID-19 will be reduced and the risk will eventually disappear in the future. That sounds kind of like Donald Trump. He didn't mention the exact dates to open Bali's proposed green zones, but he said that they will observe the situation, the government will observe the situation, and if Bali can reduce the transmissions, we will open Bali one area at a time, but we're still in the alert stage. So that was what first came out. Then, interesting, this story hit the news, and this one has been, boy, there are a bunch of links down here because everybody was covering this. Jokowi says Bali will fully reopen by June, July if vaccinations stay on track. And there are so many different sources here, so I'm just kind of taking a compilation of all of that. In Ubud, President Jokowi said that there was not any set date, so he was Ubud. But later on that day, he was talking to stakeholders at the Harris Hotel in Denpasar over on Sunset Road. And he said, after observing the current situation, I plan to reopen the international borders by June or July 2021. This is dependent upon continuing the vaccination program consistently and if residents comply with the protocols. He said it won't be easy, but if all the people are supportive of the program, it won't be impossible either to bring back tourism by mid-year. And so this is the headlines that went everywhere and people went nuts. June or July. So June or July is only a few months away, right? This is mid-March. We're getting close to the end of March. And so you're talking April, May, June, three or 4 months. The tourism minister, Sandiago Uno, explained that in addition to focusing on reducing transmission, testing methods are also going to be strengthened. he noted if everyone is on board, things will go smoothly. The borders will be reopened in the near future. And so this looks like the carrot part. We talked about the stick last time about punishments, sanctions for violators. Here is the carrot. The carrot is everybody does what they're supposed to, and we can open in another 3 months, more or less. So, is that going to happen? I don't know. This is the most recent word I've got here, but the mini lockdown has been extended to April 5th, and so let's talk about that next. Okay, so we see what's happening. Right, vaccinations, there's a big push to get everybody vaccinated. The green zones are being set up. Everybody wants Bali to open as soon as possible, and well, hoping that the vaccines are going to come. There seems to be a little delay there, but who knows? One of the things is every day there are new stories about this. This is really getting a big push. Today there were a dozen new stories and stuff about new visas, and I'm not even dealing with that now because I'm not sure if that has been finalized yet or if this is just floated, but there's new things going on with visas, and I'll talk about that next week. Today it's really just about when Bali is going to open, the vaccinations, and when's Bali going to open. Okay, and so ended up here with what I called the mini lockdown. It's not really a lockdown. It's actually the enactment of restrictions on community activities, PPKM, on a micro scale, and they've been extended for until April 5th, according to the chairman of the Committee for Handling COVID-19 and National Economic Recovery, Pak Erlangga Hartarto, and I've talked about him before. And so before there were 10 provinces, 15 new ones have been added here, and I'm not going to go over all of them, but Bali is definitely one of them. And Erlangga said there's 4 parameters used to implement the micro PPKM in an area. Active cases are above the national average. Recovery is below the national average. Mortality rate is above the national average. And the hospital occupancy rate. And the regulations include limiting work from office to 50%, dine-in restaurants 50%, 50% for public facilities, shopping centers or malls to close at 9 o'clock, face-to-face learning for universities. This is a positive thing. Has been okayed, so face-to-face learning for university students, I guess that includes my youngest daughter, but not for everybody else yet. Hoping that that's going to happen in June or July. If they're going to open up Bali in June or July, they better open up the schools. And cultural arts activities can be held with up to 25%. And so this has been extended again. Now, what's happening? I guess today or last night, somebody put a thing about Singapore Airlines is taking reservations for, I don't know, May or June or something, and everybody's getting crazy. Okay, so the president said maybe he'd like to see things open in June or July. Of course, at first he said, no date. Then he said June or July. And then you got an August date. And so, who knows, right? Nobody knows yet. And the president said specifically, if the vaccinations go on schedule. And so we have 127,000. So we've got a long way to go with vaccinations. Yeah, is this going to happen? I was just looking down here. Kat had babies, and I've got them hidden away in my room to keep my granddaughter and her best friend from staring at them because it bothers cat. Anyway, so I don't know. I don't know when it's going to open up. There's this push to get open this summer. Well, this American summer. Let's say the dry season. Weather will be great. If you saw my video on Pantau, you saw that. Well, you saw how bad the situation was there. But you also saw at the then Inn they had their certificate, and I didn't notice if the hotel that we were staying at had the certificate too in Ahmed, but I assume it did. I didn't really look around downstairs much, but everybody was wearing masks there. So, yeah. Okay, so, yeah, this is good news. It's hope. Like I said in the article, the president is putting hope down. And there's been a couple of caveats from people saying, everybody's got to get involved in this. Everybody's got to push for this. Everybody has to follow, get vaccinated, keep wearing a mask, keep doing social distancing. Don't get crazy. Don't get lazy. If you want to open up and get things back to the new normal, everybody's got to work together on this. And so, yeah, I hope that's going to happen. We'll see. We'll see. And so, yeah, busy week is going to be a busy week this week too in the news, I'm sure. And so you want to see what's happening, and I'll try to discuss the visa stuff. Some good news for people who come in on like a social visa. There's some good news there, and then there's that second home visa that I've mentioned before. So I'll talk about that next time. Okay, so please follow the protocols. Help Bali open up. If you're here and you're one of these influencers that say I love Bali, but I'm going to run around maskless and do what I want. If you really love being here, help by following the rules and the protocols so everybody can open, not just because you want to feel good. And be kind to someone today, and thanks for viewing, and see you next time.